I wanted to ask you about some things you discuss in your book that I thought were very interesting. Specifically, the example of the cold shower. I don't know if we could take a few minutes to talk about that, because while this is not like a business problem, I think it shows like how we can be misled, and specifically when we don't understand the mechanism. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about
Mhm,
the cold shower experiment and what would be a mechanism in this context and why it's important.
mhm. So, in broader term, indeed, it's I might be too technical today because I'm seeing you, and we used to exchange, I mean, online on technical terms. But of course, I can tune down the technicality because that's also the book has no. It's really made accessible. If you never heard any of these terms, it's made accessible, and that's also the type of content I create sometimes. So, cold showers and mechanism. Something that is key, and that even sometimes is surprising to some people practicing causal inference, is when you measure a causal effect. You say, okay, this is the cause. And you have, for example, a randomized experiment allowing you to really identify well the cause. The thing is, does not necessarily understand explain the how. It answers the why this is the cause, but not necessarily the how. What explains the pathway? And in causal inference, it's kind of a second step. You try to understand the mechanism, the pathway, the how. And understanding the how is very important. That's something I discuss a lot. Later, we can discuss this about AI and with businesses. It's particularly important when you deploy a chatbot to understand what is driving, not only what is driving, but what is explaining the pathway. I'll come to an example later. Let's keep on track and get back to cold showers. If you look for cold showers and evidence about cold showers, in particularly on work-related sick leave, you'll find probably this very famous paper, which is published in a quite good journal. It's PNAS, plus one, sorry. And basically, if I'm not mistaken, it's a large experiment. 3,000 people in the Netherlands. And basically, you have four groups, but to simplify, let's say two. You have one who has to take normal showers every day, and the other group is basically taking normal showers every day plus a cold exposure at the end. So putting the water cold at the end of the shower for different time, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, or 90 seconds. And the main punchline, the main result of this paper that I've heard the first time in the documentary is that the people who did the cold showers, the treated group, had a reduction in work-related sick leave of something like 33%. A large effect size, very large magnitude. And as usual, when I hear causal claim, it triggers me. I look in the paper, start reading it. The first thing that came to my mind was the placebo effect. Basically, the first thing here about the mechanism, what explained this effect. Is it a placebo effect? It's just because you're taking the cold shower, you feel stronger, but there is not really something happening within, just like more mental thing happening, and that might be an effect. Honestly, I don't have big issues with placebo effect here. If you don't, as long as you don't have a side effects, negative side effects, good for you. If you feel better, it helps you just to boost you through the effect of a placebo. That's okay. First, in the paper, they mentioned this 3 paragraphs before the end of the paper. I think this should be in the abstract, in my opinion. That's just a detail. But the second thing, if you go deeper, and again, here you can do this without a single equation. And I know that this will trigger many people, but you can really question things just with your mindset. For example, if you know a bit about experimenting and pathways, in the paper they explain that we miss the mechanism. Basically, we are not even sure what could explain the effect of cold showers. There are things that are studied, there are direction, but it's not yet very, very clear. So if you don't know the mechanism, it's even harder to argue that it's following a precise mechanism. But the more severe problem in this research, I would say, is what we call, so the complex terminology is called Hawthorne effect. It's basically when you observe people, you change their behavior because they know that they are observed. And this might have devastating effect for our research. For example, here, in my opinion, Why? Here in particular, you could say aversion is a desirability bias. Is basically people who enrolled in this study are all volunteers. So probably they know that we expect them to be more resilient, stronger, that cold shower might boost their immune system. That's the expectation. And hence, because they are observed, they might simply think, okay, I have to go to work. Because I'm in the treated group, that's what we expect from me, I have to go to work. But if this is the pathway, it's devastating for the research because it means there's no effect. It's just because you observe the people, they behave differently. It's not an effect of actual cold shower, it's an effect of experiments on cold showers. So that might be a very big problem. And of course, I would like also just to end with a more encouraging note, because to avoid people thinking that I just criticize things. First, I think it's an interesting research for some aspects. It brings some kind of answers. And in the second, with limitations and caveats, which is usually the case with research. But second, I also suggest potential solutions. I mean, you could track, there's no placebo to cold showers, that's for sure. But you could track some metrics that are objectives with many, maybe smart watches, even blood samples, to see if you actually have something happening in the physiology of the person. I don't have maybe the right terminology, but really something happening in the body that you can track objectively and that can't be manipulated, because in the study everything is self-reported. So again, I like to show this example for several things. It illustrates, as you said, that the pathway is very important to understand. It's kind of a second step. And second, that you can challenge peer-reviewed research without a single equation.